So because we're going to stone set some CZs in our projects today, I wanted to just do a separate video regarding tube setting, organization, tube sizes, that type of thing. As you grow, particularly with your stone sizes, it's really important to stay organized. Now, you could put all of your burrs just in your burr cabinet and just know, but for me, it's easy to keep them organized in packets. So I have a bag. In the bag, it has my stones and my burrs. Now, if my tubes were small enough to fit in that bag, I would put those in there. And actually, I probably could put those in these bags, just have never done that. So when you're stone setting, so this bag here contains the burrs for the 4.5 millimeter. And then I have my 4.5 millimeter stones. And they come in little teeny tiny sealed up bags. I don't know if you can see that, maybe that way. And then basically what I do, because they're sharp of course on the end, I just punch it through. Okay, so you're going to want to keep those on there. Now, Rio Grande is very good about putting on their 4.5 millimeter, so I don't really have to mark the exterior bag, but I do mark these interior ones because they can easily get separated, and then you don't know what you've got unless you measure. So just to make it my life easier, I mark on those what my stones are. And then I keep it in a baggie with my stone setting burrs. Now, you will see here, I have bush and I have dent sply. And either one are good. You can buy either one. I got both of these from Rio. There's no difference in quality as far as I'm concerned. I tend to buy more bush. I don't know why. It just seems that that's just what I tend to buy. So now in this little baggie, you can tell that the stones are not in those little sealed up bags. So sometimes when you order really small stones, they will come in a little box like this. And you have to be careful because if you don't hold it well, that when you pop the lid off, they'll go everywhere. So we've got these little teeny tiny stones here, and these are 3 millimeter. So now I didn't bring my wax stick over here. One thing you're going to need is a wax stick or some type of wax to pick these up. And see how easy they pop away. So I'm going to cut the video for just a second, run over there and get my wax stick, and be right back. So there are different kinds of wax. So this wax stick, and I'm peeling off some of the cruddy. It's just a little wax stick, and it's got a plastic sheathing around it, and it slides up as needed. So you can just push it. It pushes. It's hard to push it up, but you can as you need it. It's good that it doesn't easily pop up. So what you'll do is, and it's pretty stiff, so it'll warm with your hands, and then you can form it into a little point there. So when you have your stones out, and I'm not going to pour out a lot, so with a couple there, you can just tap it and it will be enough to stick it. And then you can manipulate it, put it where you want to put it, and you know, you can even turn it over like that. It's easy to just pick up and drop in there. So a little wax stick is important. Now, you can also buy these wax sticks, and I use these quite a bit for a lot of things. So I recommend buying a box of these. They'll last forever and a day, and they come in these little sheets, but they're perforated so you can peel them off. Now the good thing about these wax sticks, here's just a wad that I have, and I can do the same thing. I can make a little point there, and I can pick up my stones and place them. But another good thing is that with these, you can strap them across a stone, like a cabochon, if you're going to set it. And it will hold it temporarily so it's not bouncing around and moving on you. So wax is a good thing. I will put this on the, since we're going to have do the stone setting, I will put both this wax and this wax in the tool list for this project, so you can pick one. Again, like I said, I would recommend this. It's for the long term, but it is a little more expensive to buy an entire box of that. So if you want to just start out, you're definitely going to need something like this to maneuver your stones around. So you have your stones. Now this one, I'm not sure. So I have the stone setting burr. I also have a bud burr here. And we won't go into the different types of burrs right now. But it's basically the hole that it makes. This one makes one the exact same. The setting burr makes a hole the exact same shape as our CZs. So it's going to have the point, and it's going to have the straight flush side, so that way we can put that in there. We can go as deep as we need to, then we can drop our stone in and then press the metal over the top to hold it in place. Now these wear down a lot quicker, so sometimes it's good to have another burr that doesn't wear down as quickly to start your hole. As small as these are, it really probably isn't an issue, but particularly when you're doing larger ones, it's nice to have the two different burrs, and then you can make your hole a little bigger with this one. You would drill a hole if you needed to put it in just in flush setting. You would drill your hole, do a bud burr, and then do your setting burr. Since we've already got a hole, because we're tube setting, then if we needed to ream it out, we could do that. But since there's so much metal already removed from here, really all we're going to need for tube setting is the setting burr. But I have that in there for other types of setting. So that's an organizational tip that I highly recommend. Now, as far as our tubes go, let's talk a little bit about tubes. So I have an electronic caliper here. I think I just bought this at Lowe's or Home Depot. We're working with jewelry in such tiny little increments. I know a lot of the projects we've had up to now were not as precise because it was more free form, more artistic, and I love that. But there are times when absolutely precision is key, and this is one of those times. So with the calipers, let me see if I can turn this around so you can see. Okay, so I have a tube here. Okay, and it's coming in at 5.57, 5.6, so I'm thinking it's around 5.6. Now the interior, we measure up here, and it's about 4.25-ish, 4.2-ish. Okay, about 4.2. Now, the importance of that is that for your stone setting, you want the exterior bigger than the stone, and you want the interior smaller. What you basically want is when you set your stone on here, just to set it on here, you do not want it to come over the edge, and you don't want it falling through. So you want it to be able to rest on your tube, and you see metal around, because it's that metal around, once we cut the seat, that we're going to compress over the top, and it will hold the stone in place. So that would probably fit a 4.5 stone. So let me pull one out here and just demonstrate. So on these little bags, because it's pointed, I just poke it through. I'm going to take the top, I'm just going to tap it, and let's see, and there it sits. Actually, that stone is a little bit small. That was a 4.5. I would like to have a little bit less metal to have to compress over the top. As far as tubes to buy, you can buy the argentium, but you can also buy the fine silver. And the fine silver is softer even than the argentium. Let me find a 5mm stone here. And it's a lot easier to compress over the top, because argentium does get hard. But a lot of my tube is argentium. I have argentium and fine silver. But just starting out, let me recommend that you buy fine silver for your tubing. Now, if you need a size that fine silver doesn't have, but it does have, they do have it in the argentium, then don't hesitate. Go ahead and buy that. Okay, I have a 5mm stone here. Let's see how it fits on there. And that's what we're going to need for that. Oops, that's a rough. It was a really rough edge, so and my tube isn't cut completely flush. Yes, this is what we're going to need for this tube. So there's less metal to compress. When we cut the seat, it'll be a much more formidable seat that we've cut in there, and then that will give us a perfect setting. You need very, very, very little metal to hold a stone, even a cabochon in place. So the less metal that you have to go up over the stone, the more it's going to enhance the stone, because with stones, it's not so much about the setting. It is about showing off the stone. So I'm going to put this little baby, I can't put him back in his little baggie, but I'm going to drop him in his big baggie, which is another good reason to put him in here. Now, with tube setting, you can, when you get ready to burnish it over, that's a good time. If you're going to do it with a tool, like a burnishing tool, that's another good time to take a piece of this, roll it out skinny. Whoops, the lights are making it hot. And then drape it over the top, or just kind of anchor it down while you burnish it over. But you're still going to have to hold your thumb or somehow and burnish it on there. Now, let me recommend a tool for your forever list. Okay, so this is a stone setting kit, and I waited forever and a day to buy it because I just, you know how you question yourself, will I use it, do I need it? But let me encourage you, this is amazing. So as I have that stone sitting on there, then all I have to do is press this down and then work the metal down over it. And I don't have to mess with draping wax over it. I don't have to worry that I'm gonna, if I'm holding it straight or if I'm holding it at all and then trying to push, you know, with a tool, you know, to try to burnish it over. And that's certainly an easy way to, I mean, certainly an accurate and a good way to do it, and they do it that way all the time. But I'm all about, if a tool makes my life easier, then I'm all for it. And then you know, you have all different sizes. You want the smallest one for that tube so it doesn't hit the stone. And then it just makes quick work of it all. So, but I'll have this on there if it is something you want. I think once you start to set CZs, you're going to love it. It just, they sparkle. They look like diamonds to the you know, the distance, and they sparkle pretty. So you know, with your jewelry, particularly your silver, you know, having the CZs in it are wonderful. It's going to be frustrating for you to try to, particularly as a beginner, to form that metal over that without some help. So if you don't have this, don't despair. Go ahead and get your skills developed and practice. Then when you do get this, you'll be setting stones all the time in tubes. Because it makes it so much easier, and they make your jewelry so much prettier. So we're going to talk about cutting the stones, or the tubes, excuse me, once we're in the class or the tutorial. Those are just some scraps there. But what you're going to do is you're going to cut them with your jeweler's saw. There are different ways to do that. I use my little miter, and that one's set for a smaller tube. But you open it up, and I also have this little stop in here that if you're cutting several and you want them all exactly the same size, then that little stop there, you just put it in till it hits the stop. And then you have your tube. And then you just saw right up against, you just literally keep it, and I turn it this way so that it doesn't get caught in there. This keeps it flush. I don't press too hard, but I make sure that I do have it against that all the way across. Then as I'm going, sometimes I'll turn it this way, and just to make sure that I'm keeping it nice and even. And then you can take your sanding discs, you know, once you're done. Actually, you can even twist this to the side, just tap tap your sanding disc in your rotary tool on there, get the top done, then you can saw it, and one side's already done. You don't even have to have your tube in there to sand it. You could even do it like this, insert your tube in here, and then sand it. And one side's already nice and smooth. And that would be the side that you would want to fuse down to your piece of jewelry. Once it's down on your jewelry, then you can come in and just tap it on the jewelry and get the top sanded. Now, if you do not have this, don't worry. There are other ways to do it. You would take your dividers, you would find your mark, and let me pull this little guy out of here. You would find the depth that you needed. You would set your dividers. You would hang one edge over that end of that tube, and then you would just simply mark, not hard, you don't need it hard. And if you have trouble seeing that, let me recommend that first of all, just go ahead and do some Sharpie. Your fatter Sharpie might be better suited to it than this little skinny Sharpie, but it will get the job done eventually. So I'm just going to go that far. So mark your Sharpie, then take your dividers. Now I'm just going to turn the tube, and you will see a bright shiny line appear, and that is a way to find the mark. Then you can saw it. I would place it almost up to the bench pin. You could even put it at the bench pin to give you some stability, and then saw a little, turn, saw a little, stay on your line, and as you're sawing on that line and you're turning it to make sure that you are on the line, and just continue in until you've sawn it out. Now, Charles Lutenbrain has a video, and I don't have it handy, but it's really, really good about ways to cut tubing. It's not actually what the video is about. He's doing something else, but he actually puts it in his handpiece and then turns his saw blade the opposite direction, and as this rotates the tube up against the saw blade, it cuts it. And I may try to do that on a video for you guys. I may try to replicate that, because his tubes cut very nicely. I don't know what the learning curve on that is though. So that is just a little preliminary information prior to us getting into this project and doing our stone setting. And so we will, I'm going to close this video down. I'm going to edit it, slap it up there, and then in the actual tutorial, we'll go more in depth about setting our stones, and there'll be much more detail. But I wanted to go ahead and put this generalized video on the website or on the membership portal so that you would have it and you could kind of get your mind around what we're going to do, what we're going to need, and particularly ways to organize the tools and items needed. So, okay, talk to you soon.